Above 35,000 feet, chaos erupts aboard a packed San Diego to Chicago flight. Meredith Shaw, a white flight attendant, storms down the aisle, her voice shrill with outrage. She glares at Naomi Hayes, a poised black woman seated in first class. "You're not supposed to be here," Meredith snaps, her tone cutting through the gentle hum of the aircraft. Naomi doesn't flinch. She remains still, her confidence unwavering, her deep brown eyes locking onto Meredith's with quiet defiance. But then, in a burst of frustration, Meredith shoves her hard. The force sends Naomi back against the seat, toppling a tray of steaming coffee. The scalding liquid spills onto a child in the next row, triggering a chorus of gasps and a piercing scream. Passengers freeze. The scent of burnt skin mingles with the bitter aroma of coffee. Blood stains a white sweater. Meredith smirks, oblivious to the catastrophe she's just set in motion. She has no idea that Naomi's next move will send shockwaves through this flight and beyond. Where are you watching from? If you stand for justice, hit like, subscribe, and buckle up for this intense showdown. 35,000 feet above the earth, Naomi Hayes sits in the plush leather of first class. She is the picture of composure, her back straight, her chin slightly lifted, her sharp gaze tracing the endless sky beyond the oval window. The soft hum of the engines vibrates through her seat, a soothing rhythm beneath her. Her tailored navy suit is impeccable, hugging her frame with a quiet authority. A single glass of water rests on the tray table in front of her untouched, except for a precise sip every few minutes. She exudes a presence that is magnetic, a silent power. Other passengers in first class, dressed in sleek business attire and casual luxury, remain unaware of the storm brewing just feet away. They sip their cocktails, flick through magazines, absorbed in their own worlds. Naomi adjusts the slim gold watch on her wrist, a subtle flex of wealth, a whisper rather than a shout. Her short black hair, styled in soft waves, frames a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. She keeps her eyes on the horizon, but her mind is elsewhere, already orchestrating the moves ahead. Meetings in Chicago, deals to close, the life she built from nothing. Then comes Meredith Shaw. A wiry woman in her late 30s, Meredith walks with the clipped precision of someone who thinks she owns the plane rather than just works it. Her blonde hair is pulled into a ruthless bun, her navy uniform starched within an inch of its life. Her heels click against the aisle with calculated dominance. A clipboard clutched in one hand, a pen in the other, as if she is signing verdicts rather than checking passenger logs. Her pale blue eyes scan the rows like a hawk hunting prey. Then she stops cold. She sees Naomi, and something flickers across her face. Suspicion, contempt, perhaps both. Because to Meredith, Naomi doesn't belong here. Not in this seat, not in this space. Naomi's presence is a challenge to the unspoken rules Meredith has internalized for years. The rules that tell her who belongs and who doesn't. Her nostrils flare slightly as she steps forward, casting a shadow over Naomi's tray table. The light dims. The air tightens. Her voice is polite, clipped, but underneath there's a sharpness, a threat wrapped in professionalism. "Mom, I need to see your boarding pass, now." It's not a request, it's a demand. The passengers around them perk up, heads turn, eyes dart between the two women. They sense Ida's scene unfolding. Naomi doesn't rush, doesn't fumble. She slowly turns her head, locks eyes with Meredith, and smiles. A soft, deliberate smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. Of course. She reaches into her blazer pocket, retrieving a crisp white boarding pass. Her movements are smooth, unhurried. When she hands it over, her fingers brush Meredith's for a fraction of a second. The touch is feather-light, almost accidental, but loaded with something unspoken. Meredith snatches the pass, her eyes flicking down. Seat 2A, first class. Naomi Hayes. Everything checks out. And their brow furrows. Her lips twitch. The disbelief doesn't fade. She scans the ticket again, flipping it over as if expecting to find a mistake, a loophole, a reason. But there is none. Still, she can't let it go. She looks back at Naomi, her voice rising just enough for the nearby passengers to hear. This says first class. It's a statement, but it sounds like an accusation. A ripple of tension spreads through the cabin. The rustle of newspapers stops. The clinking of glasses pauses. All eyes are on them. Naomi nods once, her voice as steady as steel. That's correct. For a brief moment, Meredith freezes, because this moment doesn't make sense to her. She had already decided what kind of person should be in first class, and Naomi wasn't it. She wasn't supposed to fit here, not with her calm confidence, not with her perfect posture, not with the effortless way she took up space. And there she was. Meredith's fingers tighten around the pass. Her mind races. There has to be a mistake. But there isn't. Finally, she thrusts the ticket back, forcing a tight, fake smile onto her face. Her hand trembles slightly. Without another word, she turns on her heel. Her clipboard slaps against her thigh as she marches down the aisle, her mind a hornet's nest of buzzing thoughts. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. As she passes the galley, she steals one last glance over her shoulder. And there, Naomi sits completely unbothered. She lifts her glass of water, takes a slow sip, unshaken, unmoved. The other passengers whisper now. Some nod in approval at Naomi's composure. Others shift uncomfortably, sensing the wrongness of it all. And one man, middle-aged, balding, sitting in 3 cleans toward his seatmate. She handled that well, keeps things in order up here. A woman across the aisle frowns, her red lipstick stark against her pale skin. Her eyes linger on Naomi. What did she do to deserve this? The plane hums onward, but the battle has just begun. The tension inside the plane crackled like static before a storm. In first class, some passengers exchanged knowing glances, amused by Meredith Shaw's boldness, while others fidgeted in their seats, sensing that something about this wasn't right. A balding man in a gray suit, seated 2 rows back, leaned toward his companion with a smirk. Well, she handled that properly. Can't let just anyone slip into first class, can we? But across the aisle, a woman with striking red lipstick frowned. Her eyes lingered on Naomi Hayes, her expression troubled. What had she done to deserve this? Back near the galley, Meredith absorbed their silent approval like fuel to a fire. No one had outright questioned her. No one had stopped her, and that meant one thing: she wasn't done yet. Naomi, still seated in 2A, barely moved. Only her jaw tightened, a small, almost imperceptible flicker of steel beneath her composure. A calculated breath, a chess player weighing her next move. This wasn't just a petty power struggle. It was an attack designed to humiliate her. And Naomi had no intention of responding with rage or weakness. No, she would answer with something sharper, colder, something Meredith Shaw wouldn't see coming. A slight tremor passed through the aircraft as it encountered a patch of turbulence, sending a ripple of gasps through the cabin. Overhead, lights flickered for a brief second. Naomi didn't move, didn't even blink. Her silence was louder than the engines. But across the plane, Meredith, completely unaware of the battle she'd just ignited, adjusted her bun in the galley mirror, her reflection smirking back at her. She thought she'd won the first round. She had no idea she had just started a war. Naomi sat stiffly in her first-class seat. The hum of the engines vibrated beneath her feet, steady and constant as the San Diego skyline faded into memory far below. Her navy suit remained crisp despite the confrontation moments ago, but the sting of public scrutiny of being treated like a trespasser in a space she had paid for was still fresh. She barely touched her glass of water now. Instead, she stared at it, her mind sharpening. Behind her, Meredith paced the aisle, her wiry frame practically humming with tension. She clutched her radio, fingers pressing into the plastic. Then she clicked the button. "Captain, we have a potential security risk in first class. Passenger 2A. I need backup." Her voice was smooth, professional, deliberate. She didn't say Naomi's name. She didn't say what the risk was. She didn't have to. Across the cabin, conversations halted. Passengers stiffened. Eyes flicked to Naomi. A silent, dangerous question hung in the air. Who would break first? Then reinforcements arrived. Two broad-shouldered male flight attendants strode forward, their navy vests stretched tight across their chests. Their expressions were unreadable, but their hands hovered near their belts, an unspoken warning. One cracked his knuckles. The other shifted his weight like a bouncer outside a nightclub. Their mere presence turned Meredith's accusation into a spectacle. Naomi looked up. Her gaze was steady, unwavering as she met their eyes one by one. Her voice cut through the thick, expectant silence. "Is this really necessary?" The taller of the two attendants hesitated, but before he could speak, Meredith stepped forward, her clipboard smacking against her thigh. "Move to coach now, or well make you." Her words were a whip cracking through the air, a challenge, a dare. Passengers held their breath. A woman in a silk scarf clutched her pearls. A man in a pinstriped suit leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with morbid curiosity. Some nodded faintly at Meredith's firm control of the situation. Others frowned, sensing that something was deeply wrong. Naomi's jaw tightened, just a flicker. There it was, the trap. If she resisted, she'd be the problem. If she complied, Meredith would win. So she chose a third option. Naomi stood slowly, deliberately. Her heels clicked against the polished floor, each step measured, precise like a queen descending her throne. She lifted her sleek black bag from beneath the seat, slipping the strap over her shoulder in a single, fluid motion. And then, with unshakable poise, she turned. She walked down the aisle, head high, not like a woman who had been banished, but like one who had just declined a throne that wasn't worth sitting on. Behind her, Meredith's smirk widened, her chest puffed out in victory. As Naomi moved past the rows of first-class passengers, a murmur rippled through them. Some looked relieved, others uneasy. Something about the way Naomi walked unsettled them, as if she knew something they didn't, as if this wasn't over. Not yet. Coach was a world apart from first class. The air felt thicker. The seats were cramped, the hum of conversation louder. Naomi scanned for an empty row. Then a voice stopped her. "What? Too good for us back here?" A heavy-set man in a stained polo shirt, his face flushed from too many beers, leered up at her. Roy Jansen. His lips curled into a sneer. Before Naomi could step past him, he spat. A thick glob of saliva landed on her polished shoe. His friends snickered. Their eyes gleamed with malice. Naomi froze. just for a split second. Then she bent down, pulled a tissue from her bag, and wiped the spit away. Calmly, precisely, like it was nothing, like he was nothing. Roy's laughter faltered. His smirk twitched. Naomi straightened. Her cold, unyielding gaze met his. A silent promise flickered in her eyes, one he couldn't quite read. She slid into an empty seat, tucked her bag beneath her, and pulled out her phone. Her fingers danced across the screen with precision. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, a secret weapon igniting in her hands. At that exact moment, turbulence hit again. The plane rocked slightly. Roy's beer sloshed onto his lap. He cursed, his slurred voice drowned by the roar of the engines. Up in first class, Meredith watched from afar. Her smirk faded, because she saw it, that small smile on Naomi's lips, and it sent a prickle of unease through her gut. Something about Naomi's calm gnawed at her, whispered to her, this wasn't over, not yet. Beneath the surface, something was shifting. Most of the passengers didn't see it, but Naomi Hayes did. She sat in coach, spine straight, posture controlled. To any casual observer, she was merely a passenger one who had been forcibly reassigned to a lesser seat. But inside, she was a coiled spring. Her calm was a mask. Beneath it burned something sharper, something Meredith Shaw wasn't ready for. Hey, viewers, are you raging at Meredith's power trip? Or are you waiting for Naomi to flip this whole thing upside down? Drop a comment. 1, if you're furious. 2, if you're rooting for Naomi's comeback. And don't forget, smash that like button if you're fired up for justice. This fight, it's just getting started. Naomi sat in her cramped coach seat, the armrest pressing into the side of her navy suit. She barely noticed. Her sharp brown eyes were locked on her phone, the glow of the screen illuminating her face. 35,000 feet above the earth, her fingers moved with precise intent. A single message. Sent. A trigger pulled. The engines drummed steadily, the faint smell of cheap beer lingering in the air. Just 2 seats over, Roy Jansen, the drunk, racist brute, snored loudly, his breath thick with alcohol. His spit was long wiped from Naomi's shoe, but the memory of it remained. The violation, the disregard. And yet Naomi hadn't reacted, not then. She didn't have to, because the moment she hit send, the real counterattack had begun. Meanwhile, back in first class, Meredith Shaw strutted down the aisle like a queen surveying her kingdom. Her blonde bun gleamed under the soft lighting, her wiry frame practically vibrating with smug satisfaction. She could still see it in her mind, Naomi's retreat. The way those 2 burly flight attendants had loomed. The way Naomi had walked away head high, but still defeated. Meredith savored the moment like a shot of cheap whiskey burning down her throat. A win. But beneath the hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, the rustle of magazines, there was something else, something off. Passengers were still glancing toward coach. Some couldn't shake the feeling that something had gone wrong. And then it happened. A spark. A shift. From seat 3B, a man stood up. His charcoal suit was crisp, his broad shoulders squared with confidence. His dark skin gleamed under the cabin lights. And when he spoke, his voice cut through the air like a thunderclap. "Excuse me, Mom. We need to talk about what you just did." The words hung in the air, charged. The cabin stilled. Passengers turned, eyes locking onto the confrontation. Meredith spun around, the color in her face draining for just a fraction of a second before she recovered. Her clipboard clutched tight, a makeshift shield. "Mind your business, sir. This doesn't concern you." Her voice was sharp, clipped, but Adrian Colea, seasoned lawyer, one who had spent years in courtrooms dismantling corruption, didn't flinch. He didn't sit down. Instead, he pulled out his phone. A single swipe, camera on. The lens locked onto Meredith's pinched face, her starched uniform, her venom in real time. She could bully Naomi. She could command flight attendants. But she couldn't intimidate the internet. The cabin went still. Passengers froze, drinks halfway to their lips, magazines forgotten. A woman in a silk blouse gasped softly. A man in a baseball cap leaned forward, intrigued, and Adrian held his ground. "You racially profiled that woman," he said, his voice steady, and him not letting it slide. "Apologize. Now." A gauntlet thrown. A challenge Meredith couldn't dodge. Her pale cheeks flushed red. She opened her mouth and stumbled. 2 was just doing my job. She didn't belong there. The words tripped over themselves. Her authority cracked, because in that moment it wasn't just Adrian staring her down. It was the entire plane. Meanwhile, in coach, Naomi's phone buzzed. She glanced down. A notification flashed across the screen. Live stream active. Adrian's shaky but clear footage flickered to life. The world was watching. And then, for the first time since this began, Naomi smiled. A glint of triumph flickered in her eyes. Because her one text, it had landed. A call to arms. And Adrian had answered. The live stream exploded. Thousands of views, ticking up by the second. Comments flooded in. "She's a bigot." "Justice for Naomi." "Meredith is finished." The digital roar echoed through cyberspace as the plane soared over Nevada. The Wi-Fi was patchy, but strong enough to carry the chaos. In coach, whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs turned into gasps. Some passengers pulled out their own phones, catching the feed. The ripple of outrage spread like wildfire. Up in first class, Meredith felt it. She felt the shift, the heat. Her neck prickled as the captain's voice crackled over her radio. "Shaw, stand down. We're getting calls about this. Stop it. Now." His voice was clipped, urgent, a direct order, but Meredith couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Her fury boiled over as she jabbed a finger at Adrian. "You're out of line. Sit down or you're next." The threat hung in the air, hollow, desperate. Her power was slipping through her fingers like sand. But Adrian didn't back down. "This is what systemic racism looks like, folks. Right here, 35,000 feet up." His words were a hammer pounding nails into Meredith's coffin. The passengers stirred. Some nodded at Adrian's stand. Others glared at Meredith. A woman with diamond earrings muttered, "She's gone too far." But a man in a polo shirt scoffed, "Good for her, keeping order." A divide cracked through the cabin. A fault line Meredith had created herself. And in coach, Naomi leaned back, her fingers curling around her phone. Her smile sharpened, a blade slicing through the noise. Because Meredith's victory, it was already dust. And as the plane rocked from turbulence, Meredith gripped her radio like a lifeline. Her mind raced with one thought. This wasn't over. Meredith Shaw's reign was crumbling. The live stream was a flare in the night, igniting outrage across social media. Naomi wasn't just a passenger anymore. She was a symbol, a force Meredith had underestimated. The plane's lights dimmed slightly as the aircraft surged forward, slicing through the sky toward Chicago. The engines growled beneath them, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. And yet, Meredith wasn't done. She wiped a thin sheen of sweat from her brow, her previous smirk replaced with a hard snarl. Naomi had embarrassed her, exposed her, but Meredith wasn't about to let some uppity woman with a phone and a lawyer take her down. No. She'd bury her so deep that coach would feel like a luxury. Naomi sat in her cramped coach seat, her navy suit slightly creased from the tight space. But if Meredith thought a smaller seat would shrink her presence, she was dead wrong. The live stream's view count soared past 70,000, climbing higher by the second. Naomi scrolled through the comments, her lips curving into a faint, knowing smile. The turbulence rattled the cabin, but her fingers remained steady. Up in first class, Meredith was unraveling. Her usually pristine blonde bun had started to loosen, stray strands sticking to her sweaty forehead. Her wiry frame buzzed with barely contained rage as she shoved her radio back into her belt. The captain's order to stand down still echoed in her head, but she wouldn't accept defeat. She glanced around the first class, her pale blue eyes darting wildly, catching passengers whispering. Some nodding in agreement with Adrian, others staring at her, not Naomi. They were turning against her. Strangers, online, her own passengers, and worst of all, Naomi Hayes was behind it. That poised, silent, smirking woman in coach had flipped the script on her. Meredith needed to strike back, and then her gaze landed on it. A diamond bracelet, carelessly left on a tray table in first class. A sleeping woman in a velvet dress, her wealth dripping from every carefully manicured finger. A twisted spark ignited in Meredith's brain. If Naomi wanted to play dirty, she'd show her dirty. Meredith moved like a shadow, her smirk returning, darker now. She snatched the bracelet, the cold stones biting into her palm. Then she walked down the aisle, clipboard abandoned, past the plush seats, past Adrian's watchful gaze, down, to Coach, to Naomi. Naomi was still engrossed in the live stream, her smile widening as another comment popped up. "She's finished." Then Meredith was there, looming over her, her voice low, dripping with fake politeness. "Routine check, Mom. Open your bag." Naomi's smile faded, her brow furrowed slightly. What's this about? But Meredith didn't answer. She yanked the sleek black bag from under Naomi's seat, fingers already moving. A sleight of hand. A thief framing a thief. The bracelet slipped inside, tucked beneath a notebook. Meredith stepped back, dusting off her hands like she'd just finished a chore. Naomi's eyes narrowed. A flicker of suspicion crossed her face. But before she could speak, Meredith spun around, yanking her radio out again. Her voice rang through the cabin, loud enough for everyone in coach to hear. "Security, we have a theft in progress. Coach, row 15. Suspect is in possession of stolen goods." The words slammed through the air like a hammer. Gasps erupted. Passengers turned in their seats, staring at Naomi with wide eyes. Roy Jansen stirred. His bleary gaze locked onto Naomi, a sneer curling his lips. "Told you she didn't belong." The plane tilted slightly, the descent into Chicago beginning. The engines roared louder. But the real storm was brewing in the aisle. Two guards stormed down from first class, the same burly duo from earlier. Their navy vests stretched over broad chests, their expressions blank, but their hands already reaching for their cuffs. They loomed over Naomi's seat. One cracked his knuckles. The other tapped his belt. The tension was suffocating. Naomi stood, her voice steady. "This is a lie. Check the bag yourself." She didn't stammer. She didn't panic. But the guards didn't care. One grabbed her arm, the other snapped the cuffs around her wrists. The cold metal bit into her skin. Passengers gasped. Naomi's suit sleeve bunched up as they yanked her forward. Her heels scraped the floor. Her phone tumbled onto the seat. But the live stream kept rolling. A passenger snatched it up, still filming. Meredith followed close behind, her smirk a mask of triumph, her chest swelling with glee as she watched Naomi stumble. The guards shoved her toward the galley into a cramped holding area. A tiny, flickering light above her, a clanging metal door, locked. The sound echoed through the plane. Passengers erupted, some shouting, "What's happening?" Others muttering, "She stole something?" Up in first class, Adrian bolted upright. His drink spilled. His voice boomed. "This is insane. Let her go." But the guards ignored him. Their loyalty to Meredith was absolute. Her lie tightened around Naomi's neck like a noose. Meredith leaned against the galley counter, arms crossed. Through the small window of the locked door, she watched Naomi sitting inside. Back straight, hands cuffed, face calm. But Meredith knew. That calm wasn't defeat. It was calculating. Because outside, in coach, the live stream was still rolling. It had just hit 1 million views. The online fury was swelling. Naomi's face was framed on 1,000 screens, and the tide was turning. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "We are beginning our descent into Chicago. Please remain seated." But Meredith Shaw didn't move. She stood outside the cramped holding area near the galley, her arms crossed, her lips curled into a smirk. Her victory tasted bitter but intoxicating. Naomi Hayes was shackled, locked away, and humiliated in front of the entire plane. The bracelet trap had worked perfectly, and for the first time since this fight began, Meredith felt like she had won. In coach, Roy Jansen chuckled, his voice thick with satisfaction. "Serves her right." His buddies nodded in agreement, their grins wide and unashamed. They didn't realize that Meredith was orchestrating their hatred like a conductor leading a symphony. But in the darkness of the holding area, Naomi wasn't broken. Her sharp brown eyes traced the walls, her mind a razor, sharpening with every second. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The plane's landing gear groaned, the city skyline of Chicago looming through the windows. But the real crash was coming. A collision of truth and lies. One that Meredith Shaw couldn't see hurtling straight toward her. Naomi sat in the dim holding area, her cuffs biting into her wrists. Her navy suit was smeared from the scuffle, her breath steady despite the chaos swirling outside. Adrian Cole's live stream had passed 1 million views. The online outrage was a distant lifeline, one she couldn't touch, but she knew it was there. Outside the door, Meredith lingered, her blonde bun a sweaty mess, her wiry frame buzzing with smug energy. She peered through the small window, watching Naomi with sick satisfaction. The bracelet had done its job. She had transformed Naomi from an unruly passenger to a criminal in real time. And that power, that rush of control, it sent a thrill through Meredith's veins. She leaned against the galley counter, sipping water, savoring the moment. But then the riot began. Adrian Cole was done playing nice. He stormed down the aisle, his broad shoulders knocking past first-class passengers, his voice a bellow of fury. "This is a setup. Let her out now." The flight attendants blocked his way. Passengers whispered, then murmured, then shouted, "She's innocent. Check the bag again. This is wrong." Phones flashed, recording the chaos. The energy shifted. The passengers weren't just witnesses anymore. They were a mob. Fists banged on tray tables. The plane became a powder keg, seconds from explosion. The captain's radio crackled. His tone was sharp. "Shaw, we've got a riot foreman. Let her go. That bracelet isn't enough proof. a reluctant lifeline. Meredith's smirk faltered. Her fingers tightened around her water glass. The weight of a million eyes online, the rage swelling around her, it pressed against her, squeezed her. But she nodded, voice tight with venom. Fine, let her go. The door swung open. The guards yanked off Naomi's cuffs with rough hands, her wrists raw and red. She stood. Her heels clicked against the floor, her suit wrinkled but her posture intact. She looked at Meredith, just for a second. A silent vow flashed between them. Then she walked back to Coach. The passengers cheered. "You're free. They messed up." Their voices were a balm to the injustice. Naomi slid into her seat, her bag returned, the bracelet gone. The captain's weak apology came over the intercom. "It appears there was a mistake. We apologize for the inconvenience." A pathetic attempt at damage control. But Naomi didn't care. She exhaled, her fingers trembling slightly as she grabbed her phone. And then she texted. Fast, precise. Her smile flickered back faint, but real. She'd dodged the bullet, but she wasn't done yet. Meredith watched from the galley. Her smirk was gone. Her eyes narrowed. Her rage coiled inside her like a viper, because this wasn't a win. This was a slap to the face. Naomi had walked free. Her composure was still intact. And worst of all, she had an entire plane behind her now. Meredith's mind churned, her fingers brushing her radio. Then she caught Roy Jansen's eye. He was awake now, his beefy frame shifting in his seat, his sneer a mirror of her own. A silent pact formed in the air. And then it hit. 5 minutes after Naomi's release, a gravelly voice cut through Coach. Roy Jansen. His voice boomed, "Hey, look at this." He held up a rusty pocket knife, the blade gleaming under the dim cabin lights. Passengers gasped. A woman clutched her child. A man shouted, "Call security." The lie was so bold, so sudden, even Naomi froze. Her smile vanished. Her eyes widened. Roy grinned. Found it in her seat. She's dangerous. His buddies nodded, their voices an echo of Meredith's will. Saw her hide it. The captain's voice shook over the radio. "Lock her back up. Now." The mob's cheers turned to screams. Adrian lunged forward. "That's planted, you idiots." But the guards were already there. Their boots thudded against the floor. They yanked Naomi from her seat. Her phone slipped again, tumbling onto the seat. Her suit tore at the shoulder as they dragged her back to the galley. The door slammed shut behind her. Again. Outside, Meredith grinned. A predator's satisfaction. Her eyes locked with Roy's through the crowd. A wink passed between them. A twisted alliance sealed in that rusty blade. Her victory snatched back in 5 brutal minutes. Naomi's freedom was a mirage, shattered by a lie so vicious it choked the air. The plane rocked as the descent into Chicago steepened. The cabin became a cauldron of fear and fury. Passengers filmed. Passengers shouted. But the guards stood firm. Meredith's word was law again. Her smirk was a blade twisting in Naomi's gut. Naomi sat shackled once more. Her sharp eyes burned. Her calm cracked just a sliver. Her mind raced, because this wasn't just a frame-up. It was a death trap tightening. And that rusty knife? It was a noose she hadn't seen coming. The plane roared as it hurtled toward Chicago, the landing gear whirring, the city skyline looming through the windows. Naomi's fleeting hope was a ghost, fading into the dark. And Meredith Shaw? She basked in her own gloating, oblivious to the storm still brewing. The million eyes online, the voices demanding justice, the momentum shifting outside her control. she ignored it all. Because in her mind, this was over. She had buried Naomi for good, or so she thought. Hey, viewers, how's this hitting you? 1. If you're fuming over Meredith's dirty trick. 2. If you think Roy's the real slime here, would you have fought back like Adrian or played it safe? Smash that like button if you're boiling over this injustice and subscribe because Naomi's next move, it's going to shake everything. In the cramped holding area, Naomi sat shackled, her wrists raw, her breath steady despite the chaos. The flickering bulb cast jagged shadows against the walls, illuminating the torn sleeve of her navy suit. The rusty knife Roy had planted was still a phantom in her mind, a lie that had woven itself into a noose tightening around her throat. Her phone was gone. Adrian's live stream was still rolling somewhere in the hands of a stranger. But Naomi? She was alone in the dark, and yet she wasn't scared. She wasn't broken, because this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Outside, Meredith stood tall, her blonde bun a tangled mess, her pale blue eyes glinting with triumph as she adjusted her uniform. The captain's frantic order to lock Naomi up had been a victory, one she had orchestrated with Roy's planted knife. And now, as she watched passengers disembark, their shouts and recording phones nothing more than background noise, she felt her power surge back through her veins. This wasn't just about the flight anymore. It was personal, a war she intended to win on the ground. The plane jolted as it came to a full stop. The cabin doors hissed open. And then Logan Wade arrived. A gravelly voice crackled through Meredith's radio. "Shaw, we got this. Bring her out." Meredith's smirk widened. Logan Wade, the ground supervisor at O'Hare, a hulking ex-cop with a buzz cut and a scarred jaw, stormed onto the plane. His 64 frame dwarfed the crew, his tan uniform stretched tight, his boots heavy against the floor. Behind him, a crew of 5 men followed, their eyes cold, their hands twitching for action. Not a security team. An execution squad. Naomi heard the boots before she saw them. Her sharp brown eyes narrowed as the door swung open, Logan's massive frame blocking out the light. His meaty hand clamped around her arm, yanking her up. The fabric of her suit tore further at the elbow. Her heels scraped against the floor as she was dragged out. His voice, a low, menacing growl, filled the space between them. "You're in deep now, sweetheart." A slur laced his words, one he didn't even bother hiding. His crew snickered. One spat on the floor near her feet. Another cracked his knuckles. Naomi stood tall, her back straight despite the bruises, her voice cutting through the tension. "You'll regret this. All of you." Logan laughed, his meaty hand slamming against her shoulder in a mock pat-down. "Shut it. You're done." His crew nodded. One kicked her bag across the floor, papers spilling out, her phone skittering into a corner. The screen cracked, but still glowing, and thereon that screen Adrian's live stream was still running. Outside, the airport terminal swarmed with chaos. Black-vested airport police stood in formation, their guns drawn, their radios crackling with orders. Logan barked commands. She assaulted staff mid-flight. "Cuff her. Move." His lie was already typed up, a falsified report waiting in the system before the plane even landed. A story so wild it stuck, and the police believed it without question. Naomi was pinned against a cold concrete wall, her cheek pressed into the grit, her arms yanked back. The new cuffs snapped on tighter, sharper. Blood trickled from a cut on her wrist. Passengers poured into the terminal, their phones shaken as they filmed. "Let her go. This is wrong." Their voices were a frail shield, barely piercing the machine working to erase Naomi Hayes. Logan's crew moved fast. Phones snatched. Screens smashed against the floor. The evidence wiped clean in seconds. A passenger screamed as Logan's men shoved the crowd back, their fists clenched, their eyes glinting with the same bile Meredith wore like perfume. And Meredith? She stood by, watching. Her smirk was a blade twisting in Naomi's gut, because this wasn't just about putting Naomi in cuffs. It was about grinding her into dust. Naomi stayed poised. Even now, her eyes traced every movement, every slur, every shove. Her whisper was lost in the chaos. This isn't over. Her calm was a blade sharpening with every second. The police shoved her into a holding cell, a dank concrete box with a single flickering bulb. The door slammed shut. The clang was a gunshot in her ears. She sat, back against the wall, her eyes burning, because she knew Meredith and Logan thought they'd won. They were bathing in their own gloating, blind to the fire Naomi was about to unleash. In the terminal, Adrian shoved past security. His charcoal suit rumpled, his voice raw with fury. "She's innocent. Check the footage." But Logan's men blocked him. One slammed him against a pillar. "Back off, lawyer boy." His phone was snatched, the live stream cut. The 2 million eyes online flickered into silence. Meredith joined Logan. Her smirk matched his sneer. Their laughter was a twisted duet. They thought Naomi was buried. They thought the system had swallowed her whole. They were wrong. The airport buzzed with tension, the police radio crackling. Suspect secured. A lie tightening like a noose. But inside the holding cell, Naomi Hayes wasn't defeated. She sat still, her sharp eyes tracing the cracks in the wall, her mind a fortress they couldn't breach. Because this wasn't the end. This was a spark, a fuse that Meredith and Logan had just lit, and when it exploded, they wouldn't see it coming. Outside the cell, Logan Wade stood like a living wall of menace. His tan uniform was soaked with sweat, his scarred jaw clenched as he barked orders. His crew smashed phones, shoved bodies, their violence erasing evidence like a brutal eraser. Move, or you're next. His 6'4" frame loomed over passengers, his voice a constant growl of unchecked power. Tying him to Meredith Shaw was a thread of twisted loyalty, spun from shared vengeance. Meredith hovered near the jetway, her blonde bun a sweaty wreck, her wiry frame tense. Her smirk was jagged, a blade she wielded. Because Naomi was locked up. The system had swallowed her. The knife lie and assault charge a noose she'd never slip from. Meredith savored the victory, blind to the cracks forming in her plan. Then the terminal doors burst open. Adrian Cole stormed through. His charcoal suit was rumpled, his broad shoulders squared, his dark skin gleamed with sweat, and his voice was a cannon blast. "This stops now." He clutched a stack of papers, a cease and desist order straight from a judge's desk, a legal hammer forged in fire, a lifeline Naomi had summoned with one last desperate text before the galley trap. The crowd parted, gasps rippling like shock waves. Passengers clutched bags, airport workers froze. Adrian shoved past Logan's crew. Their fists paused mid-swing. His eyes blazed with a fury honed in courtrooms. His phone was gone, but his will was unshaken. He was a warrior, and Naomi's fight was now his own. He slapped the papers into Logan's meaty hand. That knife was planted. The assault charge is a lie. Release her or face contempt. The truth hit like a hammer. The documents laid it all out, a backup security stream from a passenger's hidden device, A grainy video of Roy Jansen slipping the rusty blade into Naomi's seat, and in the background, Meredith Shaw, nodding, caught, exposed, a conspiracy in pixels that Logan couldn't erase. Logan's scarred face twisted, his snarl an animal's last stand. "You're bluffing, punk." Adrian didn't flinch. He towered over Logan and spoke one final time. "Check the timestamp. It's over." The police hesitated, their guns lowered, their vests creaked as they exchanged looks. A judge's name was bolded at the top of the order, a leash they couldn't snap. Meredith rushed forward, her smirk vanishing into a panicked snarl. "Hez lying. Keep her locked up." But the lead officer, a wiry man with a buzz cut, snatched the papers from Logan's trembling hand. His eyes scanned the document. His jaw tightened. Then he barked the words that shattered Meredith's illusion of power. "Wade, stand down." The cell door groaned open. The cuffs snapped off Naomi's wrists, leaving red, raw marks. But she stood tall. Her heels clicked on the concrete, her head high, her suit torn but her poise unshaken. Her sharp eyes locked onto Logan, then onto Meredith. A silent vow burned between them. And then she stepped out. The crowd erupted. Cheers exploded through the terminal. "She's free! Justice!" Phones flashed, capturing her every step. A queen reclaiming her throne. Vince's crew backed off, their fists unclenching, their eyes darting, fear creeping in where rage had ruled. Naomi stopped beside Adrian. Her voice was low, steady, like a blade sliding into place. "Thank you." Her hand brushed his arm, a quiet moment of gratitude. Her sharp eyes swept the chaos around her. Passengers clapped. A woman in a red coat shouted, "You showed them." A man with a backpack nodded, "About time." The air crackled with triumph. Naomi pulled out a spare phone from her bag. She dialed. Her voice was a whisper. "It's time." Her words were a spark, igniting something bigger. Logan stumbled back, his meaty hands curling into fists. His snarl was a wounded animal's cry. "This ain't over, lawyer." His crew regrouped, their eyes glinting with malice, their loyalty unshaken, while Meredith's pale face flushed red, her wiry frame trembling with rage. Her eyes narrowed into slits. "She's not winning this." Her voice was a hiss, her mind racing, because Naomi's release wasn't a loss. It was a taunt, a challenge, one they would answer with blood. Their gloating shattered, but their hatred, a furnace roaring back to life. Adrian stood firm, his papers a shield. His voice boomed, "Back off. Wade, you're exposed." But Logan laughed, a guttural sound filled with promise. "Well, see about that." His scarred jaw twitched. He turned to Meredith, their eyes locked. A new plan formed in the shadows. Something bigger, deadlier. Their rage a beast clawing free. Blind to Naomi's call, her whispered words a fuse they couldn't hear. The terminal pulsed. Police holstered their weapons. Passengers filmed, the air thick with victory and dread. Naomi walked free, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd, her torn suit a badge of survival, her mind a steel trap locking in every move, every threat. Her calm, a fortress they would test again, because this wasn't the end. It was a breath before the plunge. Meredith and Logan plotted in silence. Their counterstrike was coming, a shadow lengthening over her victory. The city sprawled beyond. The stakes had never been higher. Naomi's next move? A storm they couldn't stop. The crowd roared, passengers clapping and cheering as Naomi Hayes stood tall, her wrists still raw from the cuffs, her breath steady, despite the blood drying on her forehead from a fresh cut. Her heels clicked on the polished floor, a sound that cut through the chaos like a victory drum. Adrian Cole stood beside her, his charcoal suit wrinkled, but his broad shoulders unbowed, the cease and desist order in his grip a lifeline that had sprung her free. Her spare phone buzzed in her palm, the mysterious "it's time" callous spark she'd ignited. Her mind raced, the taste of victory fragile but real, the air electric with shouts of justice. You did it! Strangers cheered, some streaming live, their phones capturing history in real time. Meredith Shaw lurked near the jetway. Her blonde bun had come undone, her wiry frame trembling with rage. Her pale blue eyes burned holes into Naomi's back. Her smirk was gone, replaced by a snarl, her triumph shredded. And beside her, Logan Wade, the hulking 6'4" enforcer, his scarred jaw twitching, his tan uniform clinging to his sweating bulk. His crew of lackeys whispered behind him. Their eyes glinted, their malice unshaken. Their defeat? A wound they would claw open wider. Meredith and Logan slipped into a shadowed corner, their voices low, urgent. Her hiss cut through the terminal noise. She's not getting away. Not after this. Logan's growl was a match waiting to be struck. I've got something. Watch me bury her. His meaty hand pulled out a tablet, thick fingers tapping. A few keystrokes. A bomb threat. Naomi's name attached. A digital dagger, forged in seconds. His scarred jaw twitched with glee as he hit send. Meredith's eyes lit up. Do it now. Her smirk creeping back, a predator's grin. Their revenge, a beast roaring free. The terminal shifted, a ripple of calm before the storm. Naomi brushed off her torn sleeve, her sharp eyes catching Adrian's nod. We've got them on the ropes. Her voice was low, steady, her smile faint but growing. The crowd's cheers a shield. Her next move? A call to press the advantage, unaware of the trap snapping shut. Then it hit. Sirens screamed through the terminal. Red lights flashed. SWAT stormed in, black helmets gleaming, rifles raised, boots pounding, a dozen voices shouting, "Freeze! Hands up!" Their sights locked on Naomi mid-stride. Adrian spun. What the hell? His words drowned in chaos. A burly officer tackled Naomi to the ground. Her suit ripped at the knee. Her forehead slammed into the concrete. Blood trickled warm down her cheek. Her sharp eyes widened, breath catching. The cuffs snapped on, tighter than before. The crowd gasped, recoiled. No, she's innocent. Phones flashed, capturing everything. But SWAT didn't flinch. Their leader barked, "Bomb threat suspect, Hayes move her." His voice was a gunshot. The lie? A sledgehammer Logan had swung. Meredith watched from the shadows, her smirk a blade twisting. Her chest swelled as Naomi struggled. Logan grinned beside her. His meaty hand brushed her shoulder. "Told you. She's done." His crew fanned out, planting whispers. "She's a terrorist." The poison seeped into the crowd. Some shrank back. Others shouted, "Check the system." But the police hauled Naomi away, her suit shredded, her heels scraping against the floor, dragging her to a holding cell. The door slammed shut, a clang that shook the terminal. Outside, the press swarmed. Helicopters buzzed overhead. Meredith stepped forward. Her voice was loud, sharp. She threatened the flight. I saw it. Her lie, a megaphone to the cameras. Logan nodded. Found the alert myself. His tablet, wiped clean. Their story, airtight. The crowd split. Some believed, others raged. It's a setup. The air thickened with panic, with fury. Naomi's calm cracked. Her sharp eyes traced the cell bars. Her mind reeled. Life in prison loomed. A death sentence in all but name. Adrian lunged at the police line. "This is fake. Check the footage." His broad frame shoved forward, but Logan's crew blocked him. One slammed him against the wall. "Shut it, lawyer boy." Their fists a wall he couldn't breach. His papers useless. Now? The system was a machine grinding Naomi down. Her call unanswered. Her victory, a ghost fading in the chaos. The terminal became a war zone. SWAT cordoned off the area. Passengers fled, filmed, their shouts a cacophony. Meredith and Logan retreated, their grins feral, their revenge a lethal stroke perfected. They thought Naomi was buried, her poise a memory they had torched. The online storm at 3 million views, a distant thunder they believed they'd outrun. Blind to Naomi's sharp eyes burning behind bars, her mind a steel trap, locking in every move, every lie. Her calm, a flicker they couldn't snuff out, because this wasn't the end. It was a plunge into hell. She'd climb out, and when she did, they would choke on their gloating. The terminal buzzed, a fractured crowd lingering, some fleeing, others filming. Whispers turned into shouts. "She's innocent! They framed her!" A faint spark of doubt flickered through the chaos. Adrian Cole shoved past Logan's crew, his charcoal suit soaked with sweat, his broad shoulders squared, his voice unshaken. "We're not done. She's getting out." His thick fingers were empty of papers, but his will, a battering ram. His dark eyes blazed, a warrior beaten but unbowed. And then it erupted. A protest surged outside the terminal doors. Adrian at the helm, his Rora beacon. "Justice for Naomi Hayes." His broad frame waved a makeshift sign, scrawled with marker. Hundreds joined in, their voices a tidal wave. "Free her now, no more lies." Their signs flashed. "End the frame up. Truth matters." Their feet stomped in rhythm, shaking the concrete. Passengers, workers, strangers, all united. Their phones live-streaming the footage. 3 million views spiked to 4. Hashtags exploded. Naomi Hayes. Justice. Now a national outcry swallowed the news cycle. Choppers circled tighter, their spotlights catching the growing swell. Inside, the police hesitated, their vests creaked, their guns holstered. The lead cop clutched his radio, his voice tight. Crowds out of control. "What's the call?" The SWAT leaders scanned the screens. The protesta pressure cooker, the bomb threat, flimsy evidence, cracking under the weight. A judge's voice crackled through the radio. "Release her on bail. Insufficient proof. Do it now." The order forced by the uproar. The cell door groaned open. Naomi stepped out, her suit shredded, her heels clicked, her sharp eyes blinked against the light. Her breath caught. Freedom hit. Fragile, but real. The crowd roared, a thunderclap of triumph. "She's out." "We did it!" Their phones flashed, filming her walk, a bruised queen reclaiming her ground. Adrian rushed to her side. His broad hand gripped hers. "You're safe. We've got them." His voice her lifeline. Her smile flickered, faint, trembling. Her sharp eyes swept the sea of faces, their cheers a balm on her wounds. Her breath steadied. She stood tall, the 4 million eyes online a shield she leaned on. Her next move? A strike she'd land hard. Meredith Shaw's smirk vanished. Her wiry frame stiffened, her pale face flushed red. No, this isn't happening. Her shriek lost in the noise. Logan stumbled back, his meaty fists balled. "They can't do this." His snarl a wounded beast. His crew shrank. Their eyes darted. Fear crept where malice had ruled. The bomb plot unraveled. The judge's callous sledgehammer. They couldn't dodge it. Naomi walked through the crowd, her torn Suida badge, her sharp eyes locked onto Meredith. Then Logan. A silent vow flashed, her voice low to Adrian. "We've got him." Her smile a blade sharpening, her mind leapt ahead, believing she'd broken their grip, the protest a fortress they couldn't breach, her bruises a map of survival. The city sprawled beyond, a battlefield shed conquer. Logan regained his footing. His scarred jaw twitched, his growl low. "She's not safe yet." His meaty hand dialed a number, his voice cold. "She's out. Hit her harder." His crew nodded. Their eyes glinted, their loyalty a noose tightening again. Meredith snarled. Her mind raced. Well, bury her for good. Her wiry frame trembled, because this release wasn't a loss, it was a taunt, a spark they'd douse with blood, their Regia furnace roaring back, blind to Naomi's sharp eyes tracing their retreat, her calm, a flicker they couldn't snuff. The terminal shook. The crowd's chants a heartbeat. "Naomi! Naomi!" Their phones lave, the footage viral. The police backed off. Their vests retreated. The air thickened. Victory and dread. Naomi stood tall, her torn Suida crown, her Minda steel trap, locking every threat, every move. Her next call? A shadow they couldn't see? Because this wasn't the end. It was a breath before the plunge. Logan's call? A storm brewing, Meredith's snarl, a blade sharpening, their counterstrike, a beast waking, but 4 million eyes watched. Their thunder impossible to defy. The stakes? A cliff Naomi would climb. Her fight? A fire they'd feel soon enough. The crowd's roar was a distant hum, and then the unthinkable. Adrian stepped forward, his broad frame stiff, his voice booming. "I need to clarify something." A jolt. Naomi's smile faltered, her sharp eyes narrowed. The crowd hushed. Confusion spread. His thick fingers brushed his suit. His dark eyes avoided hers. And then his lie hit like a sledgehammer. "Naomi paid me to fake that evidence. The knife, the stream, all of it." The crowd gasped. "No!" Their cheers twisted to boos. Their phones shook in their hands, filming the betrayal. Naomi's breath caught. Her sharp eyes widened, her voice a whisper. "Adrian, what are you doing?" Her mind reeled. Her pillar crumbled. His words a knife in her back, one she hadn't seen coming. The terminal erupted. "Traitor! Liar! She's guilty! No, he's lying!" The crowd split. Faith fractured. Police rushed in. "Conspiracy. You're under arrest." The cuffs snapped back on. Her suit tore further. Her heels scraped the floor as they dragged her away. Naomi's sharp eyes locked onto Adrian. Stunned. Broken. Her voice cracked. "Why?" But he turned his back, his broad shoulders stiff, his dark eyes cold. "I had to." His lie poison. $1 million bribe she never saw coming. From the sidelines, Meredith cackled. Her wiry frame shook with glee, her pale face lit with triumph. "Got her." Logan grinned. His meaty hand slapped her back. "Told you she's toast." His crew planted fake texts on Adrian's phone. Proof of Naomi's orders, a web of lies tightening. The press swallowed it whole. Headlines flashed. Hayes paid for hoax. Fraud exposed. The 5 million eyes online flipped. Some raged. Framed again. Others sneered. She's done. The tide crashed against her, her freedom a ghost fading fast. The cell door slammed. Naomi stumbled inside, her torn suit a shroud. Her sharp eyes burned with betrayal. Her breath came ragged, her Minda steel trap, locking onto Adrian's words, Logan's grin, Meredith's laugh, her calm shattered, a scream trapped in her throat. She was alone, her allies gone. A lifetime behind bars loomed, her fight a flicker they'd nearly snuffed out. Meredith and Logan retreated, their grins feral, their victory a bitter wine. They drank deep, thinking Naomi was buried, her poise a memory they'd torched, the system a machine grinding her down, blind to her sharp eyes tracing the bars, her mind clawing back, because this wasn't the end. It was a plunge into darkness, and she would climb out. Their gloating, a spotlight they'd choke on. The stakes, a mountain she'd conquer. Her next move, a shadow they couldn't see. Not yet. Naomi sat shackled in a sterile courtroom cell. Her torn navy suit hung off her bruised frame. Her sharp brown eyes dulled by exhaustion. Her wrist straw under the cuffs, her breath shallow. Marcus' betrayal gnawed at her. The Chicago skyline blurred beyond the barred window. The clang of the terminal cell replaced by the creak of this new prison. Her mind a steel trap, her calm a thread snapping. A life sentence loomed. The bomb threat and conspiracy charges tightened like a noose. Vince and Meredith had said it. Her fight, a flicker buried in darkness. Outside the courthouse, the trial was rushed. Logan Wade loomed in the hall. His '64 frame filled the space. His tan uniform swapped for a cheap suit. His scarred jaw twitched with a grin. His meaty hands brushed Meredith's shoulder. Their victory a dark toast. Adrian's betrayal a master stroke. The fake text sproof planted deep. Naomi's freedom a taunt they'd crushed. Inside, the courtroom hummed. The judge, Logan's brother-in-law, a paunchy man with a slick comb-over. His gavel slammed. "Order!" His voice rasped, his eyes cold, his robe a cloak for corruption. The jury, hand-picked, their faces blank, the evidence lost in transit, the passenger footage deleted, the cease and desist order shredded, the system a machine grinding her down. Naomi's lawyer, a public defender, a nervous kid in a wrinkled tie. His voice trembled. "We need more time." But the judge sneered. Denied. His gavel sealed her fate. Meredith took the stand. Her wiry frame stiff, her voice loud. She threatened me with a gun mid-flight. Her Leia thunderclap, her pale face flushed with fake tears, her hands wrung in mock fear. The jury nodded. The judge smirked. In the back row, Logan grinned. His meaty hand scribbled notes, more fake evidence, false logs. Naomi made threats. His crew outside, witnesses vanished. One found dazed in an alley. Another fled town. Their silence, bought or beaten, the conspiracy tightened. Naomi sat in the dock. Her sharp eyes burned, her torn suit a shroud. "That's a lie. Check the records." But the judge slammed his gavel. "Quiet, defendant," the defender stammered. "No gun was found." But the jury didn't flinch. Their eyes glazed. The courtroom a circus. Outside, "Free, Naomi. Stop the lies." 5 million online eyes watched. The glass walls shook. But inside, the trial sped on, a blur of lies, a noose tightening. And Naomi would not go down quietly. The echoes of the courtroom had faded, but the battle wasn't over. It was just beginning. The world had watched as Naomi Hayes was framed, humiliated, and locked away. The lies had been thick, the corruption deep, but the truth was a blade they never saw coming. And now she owned it all. The streets of New York pulsed with energy. Protesters filled the avenues, their chants shaking the city. Helicopters hovered overhead, flashing lights bouncing off the glass skyscrapers, capturing a moment that would define history. Justice for Naomi. End the systemic racism. Expose the lies. It had started as a fight for one woman's freedom. Now it was a movement that had already crushed Meredith Shaw and Logan Wade. The judge, indicted. Marcus, disgraced. The police officers who had dragged Naomi through the airport like a criminal, suspended. But Naomi Hayes wasn't just here to destroy. She was here to rebuild, to ensure that what happened to her never happened again. Her first move as the new sole owner of the airline? Fire every corrupt employee. Install a civil rights oversight board. Turn the very terminal where she was arrested into a justice center, O'Hare Terminal. Once a place of her public humiliation, now a beacon of hope. Legal clinics for travelers facing discrimination. Live-streamed accountability for all security interactions. A task force to investigate airline racial profiling. The press erupted when the announcement dropped. Naomi Hayes builds the future from her nightmare. Terminal 5, the hub of justice. One woman's fight changes the system forever. She didn't just want justice for herself. She wanted justice for everyone. Meredith Shaw had been a puppet of her own arrogance. She had ruled first class like a queen, treating passengers like subjects beneath her. She had smirked, sneered, and played her role in Naomi's destruction. Now, her bank accounts were frozen. Her past complaints and racial profiling cases were dug up. She wasn't just fired, she was finished. When journalists uncovered that she had falsified reports against black passengers for years, the lawsuits poured in. Meredith Shaw, blacklisted from the airline industry. Meredith Shaw, banned from corporate leadership. Meredith Shaw, a name forever stained. She tried to go on social media to defend herself. I was just doing my job. I didn't mean for things to go that far. I was only following protocol. The internet didn't care. They ripped through her lies like a wildfire. You ruined lives. You were the problem. Now you're facing the consequences. Her world burned, and Naomi never even had to say a word. Logan Wade was next. He had swaggered through security, abusing his power, framing her for a crime she didn't commit. He had laughed when she was dragged from her seat. He had celebrated when she was thrown behind bars. But the footage was everywhere now. His bribes exposed, his fake reports uncovered, his history of misconduct dragged into the light. Logan Wade arrested for conspiracy and falsifying federal documents. Logan Wade facing 15 years in prison. Logan Wade stripped of his pension, his title, his power, gone, erased, just like he had tried to do to Naomi, the one man Naomi had trusted, the one voice that should have stood beside her. He had chosen money over integrity. $1 million. That's all it had taken for him to sell her out. The wire transfer was traced. The fake evidence he presented, dismantled. The very people who paid him to flip, now turning against him. He lost his law license. He lost his career. He lost everything. He tried to apologize. I was desperate. They threatened me. I had no choice. Naomi never looked at him again. He was less than dust. She hadn't just fought back. She hadn't just survived. She had changed the rules. No more unchecked power at airports, no more racial profiling, no more lies, cover-ups, and silence. This is what justice looks like. The system will never silence us again. This isn't just my victory, it's all of ours. Her words echoed across the world. Her movement shook the foundations of the industry. Her name became legend. Naomi Hayes more than a survivor. Naomi Hayes more than a victim. Naomi Hayes, a revolution. The city sprawled before her, the future wide open. The war had been won. The empire was hers. And for the first time, she was truly free. What would you have done in Naomi's place? Would you have fought back? Would you have survived? Or would you have let the system swallow you whole? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation alive. Hit that like button if this story shook you. Subscribe for more gripping stories of truth, power, and justice. And share this with someone who needs to see it. This wasn't just Naomi's fight. It's all of ours. Stay fierce. Stay unbreakable. The war isn't over. It's just beginning. End